All right, welcome. It is another episode of your Marvel Crisis Protocol vlog. Wait, did I roll a wild? And I am joined once again by two incredibly important people, or at least special guests. We have Zach, who just got back from his championship route at Second Wind 5 this year in Chicago, just this past weekend. And we are also joined by the man, the myth, the Ben. That's right, the pastor himself, RevRightMad, is here as well. Welcome, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hello. I haven't moved from yesterday.
No, I really appreciate that. Listen, full disclosure to those of you at home, yesterday when we finished up interviewing Gil and talking about the WTC, I asked Ben, hey, can you hold on a second? And then I just left. I went home, I went to bed.
Just walk away. Yeah,
so I do really appreciate you hanging out, Ben.
This is my first, liquid, and I haven't eaten ever. So that's great.
Well, I mean, listen, we're all about first here, right? Like, you got to experiment a little bit. Sometimes a fast is good for the mind, the body, and the soul. But
hey, look, I appreciate what you did there.
But yeah, so this past weekend, October 21st to the 22nd, was the third MCP edition of Second Wind, the fifth overall Second Wind in Chicago at the Alarmist Brewery in, once again, Chicago, Illinois. Illinois is kind of a colloquialism of the state Illinois, that people that are uneducated like myself just randomly throw in extra S's there. But to get right into it, so Zach, congratulations on winning Second Wind this year.
Thanks. It feels really good.
Now, how many Second Winds have you been to?
I've been to 4 of them. I only missed the first one. So I've been going since before it was an MCP event. I've known who are now the taco truck guys since the old Guild Ball days.
Yeah.
And Second Wind is consistently one of my favorite things to travel to every year. Definitely my favorite gaming event every year.
Hell yeah. It's definitely one of those ones, especially because I'm a massive fan of Adepticon. That was my first gaming convention that I had ever been to. And with Second Wind being so close to there, it's like, oh, well, that's Second Wind's one I really want to be able to get to.
Definitely try next year.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about kind of the setup, the venue itself. So it's at a brewery, and I'm assuming that there's other games still being played there as well at Second Wind. What is kind of the overall picture for?
So no, there's not other games.
Oh,
Second Wind is not a convention. It is a tournament. Vince Kirkov, who runs it, made an arrangement 6 years ago now, because they missed a year during COVID, with the owners of the brewery to host what was then a Guild Ball event there. And it was really successful. We set up shop in the back in their warehouse area and in their brewing area. So there's tables all by the tanks as well as in the basement.
That's super rad.
We use the space, the tap room for regular business. And we've got all the rest of the space for the weekend. We play our games, we drink beer, and the brewery makes out like bandits because once people start losing, or sometimes before they do, people go get drinks. So they're making a ton of money off us, but it's really cool. It's a really unique space. There's not a lot of other places that you can play MCP right next to giant beer vats, like as they're actually working and in service.
The aesthetic alone has to be just a really cool, aesthetic. It seems really rad.
It is. Plus their beer is great. They've got a really great, outdoor courtyard space. The staff there is incredible. They're super nice.
I'm just picturing like a big old beer barrel with an empty cup, and you could just scoop some beer. And, at least that's what I'm hoping for. You're passing ideas to Vince. Yeah.
They also do float tests for the dice in those vats. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But so Zach, what did you run this year at Second Wind? I know we've seen at least from events that we've been at. It seems like you cleave towards Guardians on a pretty regular basis. Did Guardians come back out for Second Wind?
Yeah, I stuck with my Guardians. They have been serving me really well over the past year plus. I've been playing them pretty regularly since the 2021 update, with breaks here and there. So I'm very practiced with them. I've been kind of honing the exact list that I took for a pretty long time, and it paid off.
Now, and with this particular Guardians roster, is Thanos included in this, or Malekith, or is it a little bit more pure with a little bit of Hulk? Or
so I've got 8 affiliated models. My only splashes are Sam and Hulk.
Nice.
I've never been a big Thanos fan. I think even with the gems unrestricted, I think he warps the rest of your list construction a lot, because you are kind of building everything to be able to include this 8 threat piece. So every consideration in your list is kind of, how does this piece either support Thanos or support my ability to play Thanos? And I feel like the game has gotten so much more lethal over the past year, and Thanos has never been more vulnerable. Less so now since the gems got unrestricted, because now you can give him like patch up and sacrifice. But even before that, like in his unnerved state, I was just never a fan of Thanos. He felt like, I feel like Guardians, one of their biggest strengths is how flexible they are as a roster. And he just took away from that too much.
Well, if we want to just jump right into it, Zach, as you're preparing for Second Wind, and one of the challenges is, so we just had a huge update, and then what was special about Second Wind is they okayed the new core box. So can you talk a little bit about your preparation before you even step foot into Second Wind? What's going through your mind? Let's just kind of start right from updates. What are some things that you're prepping for, that you're worried about, and you know, how did that encourage you to either prep one way or maybe another way?
Sure. So once the updates came out, I only had, I think, 3 game nights to prep, because I was out of the country for a while. Actually, it ended up only being 2 game nights, because when I got back, I got sick and almost couldn't go to Second Wind. So I had a pretty abbreviated time to practice there. What I got lucky with was that nothing in the updates or the new core box, and the new core box, we had known all the rules for months, so we had been proxying stuff locally for a while, but nothing in either of those changed my list at all.
Okay.
So it was all just trying to get practice against change stuff. And Guardians made out like a bandit in that update, because we were untouched, and our worst matchup with Storm X-Men got nerfed. Like, despite all the X-Men buffs, like so many of their models got buffed, not having cover all the time is huge. And that matchup's still really hard, because they bring a lot of crises we don't like. Yeah. But so it really was just trying to get as much practice as I could against stuff I expected to see. I had already been playing against a lot of new Captain America, because 2 of my locals had decided well before the core box even released that they were going to be bringing him to Second Wind. So they've been proxying that team for a while. So I've had games against that. I only managed to get 1 game against new Red Skull, but I played a whole lot against new Iron Man, his inclusion of Shield. So I was pretty well practiced against most of the new core box. But yeah, it was just kind of banging out games as much as possible, trying to find people who I knew played my Boogeyman matchups and seek out games with them.
Yeah. And I think you named it well. Just looking kind of at the end of the updates, just how it kind of changes matchups. I know as a Brotherhood player, I was looking at that and I'm like, oh, wait, I think we made out like bandits too. This is, you just kind of like the dust settles. You're like, wait, I'm okay. I made it.
I don't know why more people aren't playing Brotherhood. I really feel like they should be.
We don't need to go down that rabbit hole, Zach. It's going to make me sad. but I will tell you, and you mentioned it. So in your pre-update, recognizing that X-Men is a difficult matchup, and there's still some challenges. They provide some unique challenges, but definitely not as scary as you're coming back from overseas, recovering from sickness, and you're on the plane going to Second Wind, or maybe you're setting up round 1. what are some matchups that you are legitimately worried about, that you're thinking, oh please, the random gods, please don't let me get matched up or paired up to this. What's your thought process?
So there were only 3 matchups that I was worried about. There's X-Men, because despite them being nerfed, they still just kind of present some problematic things for Guardians. Mm-hmm. There was Web Warriors, who no one local to me has been playing for a while, so I just haven't gotten games against them in a while. And like, I used to play a lot of them back in the day. I've played a lot against them over time, but not so much recently, like with Spider-Woman and with new Black Cat, who I think is arguably better than she used to be. But they also present a lot of problems for Guardians because they can spam stealth. Now that Amazing Spider-Man is good, he's just very hard to kill, and witty banter is tough. And like X-Men, they just bring a lot of crises that we don't love playing on. So that was the one that over the course of the weekend, I decided that I don't know if I am more scared of Web Warriors than I am of X-Men, but I think I should be.
Okay. Yeah. There's always those thought process, just looking at the data on Logshakes. There were 6 Web Warriors players. So definitely that fear maybe of like, oh man, I don't know. And then there's 6 X-Men players. So yay you.
Second Wind has always been really like a very Web Warriors heavy event every year. There's a lot of Web Warriors players. There's a lot of really good Web Warriors players there. Kevin Stewart is a great player. Ryan Bega is a really good player. And then on the X-Men front, Nate Horn and Simon Vodkablitz were both there. And so there's some of the best X-Men players in North America, or in the world really, at that event. I got really lucky to dodge X-Men and Web Warriors.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah. I didn't manage to dodge the third matchup that I was worried about, which was the CGR Inhumans. Mm-hmm. And I was worried about that mostly because that's going to be in so ways, that's a game of who rolls better.
Yeah.
I played that game against Conan Jennings, who's a fantastic player and who's someone that, like, every time we're at a big event, we always end up dodging each other. This was the first time we actually got to play. And both of our CGRs were KO'd round 3. And the game became a lot more interesting and tactical after that. But going in, we were both kind of saying, like, yeah, let's sit down, roll some dice, and see who comes out on top, because that's kind of how that matchup is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I want to kind of break down your last 2 games a little bit more in depth when we go through it, but just to speed through. So you played 6 games over 2 days, correct? Right? It's
4 and 2. Yeah,
4 and 2. Yeah, that's what I thought. 4 and 2. So your first 4 games, just look at. So you pull new cable round 1. What's it? I don't want to go in too in detailed with like a battle report, but what's your thought process going into new cable? He's a little bit more killy now. He's offering some more rerolls himself. What was your thought?
I wasn't that worried. Guardians still just provide both better offense and better defense than X-Force, so I feel good about beating them in a fight. We were on Infinity Formula and Skrulls, and I had Prio, so I could kind of set up both my flanks really well. And I think even more than the team, knowing the player. So it was Mike Klein, who's been a friend of mine for a long time. He was one of the best Guild Ball players in the world, but he pretty much only plays MCP at Second Wind every year. So I knew that he was less experienced, and he did really well. He went 4 and 2 overall, but I knew that I had the edge on him in like actual game time.
Yeah.
So there's that.
And it matters, right? Putting reps. One of the things that I've talked about here, on the network is, as you want to improve your competitive nature. It's about reps, right? Just getting more games in. As we kind of venture into the rest of the tournament, what is your core? So is there a core that you're just, all right, I'm slapping down, Star-Lord, Groot, CGR every single game, despite,
Nope.
Okay.
There's no core.
No core.
So I think, at least if you're playing an affiliation that's lucky enough to be diverse and flexible enough to not have a core, I think thinking of a roster as having a core is actively harmful to developing as a player. Again, some rosters don't really have a choice. They just don't really have that kind of depth. But for Guardians, where at least the way I play them, there's such a toolbox affiliation. Not limiting yourself to saying like, okay, I'm playing Star-Lord, Rocket, Groot all the time. But once you get away from that is where I think you really start to level up as a player, and being able to identify what you need for every situation. So I had written down my squads for every game and counted how many times I played each model. There was one other model besides Star-Lord that I played every game, and that was Beta Ray Bill. But that isn't to say that I play him every game. It's that in the 6 games I played at Second Wind, I played him every game. Mm-hmm. And then the next highest game count of any model I played was 3. Okay. So I definitely don't have a core.
Yeah, and that's really good diversity. Yeah, sorry.
I think that's kind of perfect, right? That fits the narrative. Are you really playing Guardians, and are you really winging it if you go in with a plan?
12% of a plan.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But no, I think part of that is having plans for a lot of stuff, but not limiting yourself to one set of models to solve those plans, or to be a part of those plans and to solve those problems.
I did notice too that comparing the data to the WTC data, Beta Ray Bill was the number one rostered model in both of those events. But looking at Second Wind, the next 2 are radically different than at the WTC. Mm-hmm. Crimson Dynamo being the second most rostered model was a surprise to me, and something that I really like to see. That's a model I actually really enjoy, and I like to see him being used. A lot of, and kind of a toolbox in himself a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, he's an E specialist, right? Or even more than an E, because I don't think you should talk about E's, because I think Gamma and Demons are 2 very different shaped crises, despite having the same physical shape. Mm-hmm. He's a Gamma and researcher specialist.
Yeah.
And I think him being included so much was a meta call, in that people were expecting a lot of teams that wanted to fight down the middle. And I think in some ways, maybe he is very good at those, but I think in some ways people overestimate how good. He's still very susceptible to long-range energy attacks, which are very prevalent in Guardians. And now that Black Bolt is good, and now that Cable is good, there's a lot of those. He's also pretty susceptible to just getting thrown or pushed out of position. So I think there's this attitude I've been seeing online recently, especially among some people who went to the WTC, that Crimson Dynamo is incredibly broken, and I think he's very strong, but I don't think he's in any way broken. But it makes sense to me that he was taken so much.
Yeah, I can't resist it. Thank you, Zach, for naming. I am one of those folks where I think Crimson Dynamo is very good in a very specific scenario. Why you don't see Winterguard weren't well represented in WTC. I do think it's interesting that we had 5 Winterguard at Second Wind. And what's interesting, and I'll name this, I commend. It's Dylan. I had to double check. Dylan for going 5-1. With Winterguard. That's awesome. That doesn't mean that Crimson Dynamo is amazing in every situation. And that's, I think, for me, important to name, about the balance of a character. I do think it's hilarious that Wong is number 3. Long live the reign of Wong.
I get it, man. I get it. I've been playing a lot of Convocation lately as sort of my off team, and he's an all-star. But also he's incredible in Web Warriors, and Web Warriors are, like I said, always very well represented at Second Wind. Yeah. I know there were there were like 3 or 4 Midnight Suns players. Wong's been having a moment. Yeah, a bunch of defenders. So there were a lot of teams where he was affiliated, plus all the Web Warriors. So he's having a moment. Wong, the meta's pretty friendly to Wong right now.
Yeah, he's living his best life, and I think it's interesting, and you've mentioned it a couple times. It's neat to be able to know. I think we talked about it a little bit yesterday with Gil of local meta differences, right? So you being aware of going into Second Wind, you're going to see some more Web Warriors. And like I said, you very lovingly dodged all of them, which was good.
I was teched out, but I didn't have to use it.
I'm not going to lie. There, anytime I go to a tournament and don't see a Web Warrior player or don't play against Web Warrior, I'm like, God, thank you that you are good and just. But it's one of those things. That it's important, if you're going to go to a major event, want to do well, have those expectations. It's good to kind of know, well, I might see a little bit more of this, and what's my plan for that. Well, moving on. So you play Quentin in your second game, who is running just the lovely let's blast each other gamma research game with Shield. So I like to. Was there like a tumbleweed that like went across the thing of the cowboy standoff of Shield, right? Shield and Guardians. Tell us just to summarize that match.
Yeah, so Quentin's a San Antonio guy. So me and him, we play each other fairly frequently. My last tournament game loss before this was to him out in Houston. We meet up sometimes because I'm in South Austin, so we meet up sometimes to play. And we've played this matchup, like this same matchup, the Gamma Researcher. We've played it before. And I think with these two crises, so being stuck on 15, Guardians is somewhat favored over Shield. We talked about the game a lot afterwards and kind of talked out that we think he should have gone 5 wide rather than 4, since CGR is very good into Shield. He can kind of cancel out a lot of their tricks.
Yeah.
What CGR doesn't like as much is a wide team, because despite everyone remembering the time that he one-shot a character and then one-shot another character, he very reliably won rounds most characters, but he doesn't usually one-shot them. So he very much prefers seeing taller lists and the more like traditionally beefy models, because they're not that beefy to him. What he really doesn't like is a whole bunch of weenies, because they'll probably only kill one of them and maybe incinerate 1 or 2 more. So we kind of talked out and think that he should have gone 5 instead of 4. But as was, I was able to just kind of pick people off and dominate by body.
Yeah, and sorry, Tim.
So going into a game like that, who do you normally prefer to target with a character like CGR? Do you have any kind of specific mindset as far as like where you're applying the Ghost Rider to kind of move that in your favor?
So, as a general rule, I like targeting leaders. If I can pick out a leader, that's great. But most good players aren't going to give me that opportunity, or they're going to present a more appealing target. So it depends a lot on squad construction and on positioning. So it was Star-Lord, Bill, CGR, Rocket for me. And sorry, I've got it written down. It was Nick Fury Sr., Nick Fury Jr., Invincible Iron Man, and Crimson Dynamo for him. And he had priority, so I had last activation. He gave me Dynamo in the middle, and Dynamo was removed from the table after my first activation of round 2. So it depends who I'm given. I certainly love getting a Crimson Dynamo off the table on Gamma Researcher, because that's a matchup where I'm definitely bringing Crew of the Milano to get rid of all those shocks.
Well, so and it's nice. Sorry, Zach, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, only giving him 1 turn of being able to beam all my people before he's gone makes that crew really high value.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Crimson does not like CGR, right? It'd be a real shame if his tech was range 3 and his, some CGR bully was hitting him at range 4, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I think the score reflects that. It's sometimes people get, they kind of get a little tense around the score. But those high attrition games, like I said, removing a model on the top of 2, it's
a little silly.
It's going to snowball pretty quickly, but at the same time, very quickly can turn topsy turvy if the same thing happened to you. So you pull Eric West, who Eric is awesome. He's out in our neck of the woods, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. And he is playing Asgard. How are you feeling? We're seeing new Thor. So you got new Thor across from you. So you can get all the God of Thunder coming at you. What's your thought process?
So this is one of those moments where I'm more concerned about the player than the team. I still don't think Asgard is very good, but Eric is the highest rated Asgard player on Longshanks. He's a very good player. We played last year at Second Wind as well, and he was playing Convocation, so I know that he's a really skilled player. So I'm not totally dropping my guard just because the models on the table aren't the best, because players win games. Models don't win games.
That's well said.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, but in general, I am feeling pretty good. We had one of those, the AMG Sanctum Sanctorum. It's terrible terrain piece with that 1.5 inch of dead zone around the top. We had one of those in the middle of one flank, and we're playing Infinity Formula Hammer. Yeah. So it's the hammer's right on. It's right between the 2 infinity points. So we're looking at the board. This is a game where the terrain really impacted team selection. It's like, well, I guess I'm going to bring Sam here because he can throw shields around that. But with how wide that thing is, only if people are in exactly the right places. It's like, well, Rocket and Groot aren't going to do any good for me, even though I usually like them on Infinity. And it was just a very strange terrain setup.
Okay.
Which I think ended up working a little in my favor.
We spent some time talking to Gil yesterday, talking about the importance of non-symmetric boards, creating
absolutely.
especially allowing, the player to choose sides to actually have some autonomy, right?
Definitely.
So it sounds like that definitely sounded like that was an impact in your game.
Yeah, no, I strongly agree. Terrain should never be totally symmetrical. That piece should still get thrown in the sun. If it had, I like size 5s. I think size 5s play a very important role in the game, but specifically, it having so much of a dead zone around the edge where you can't stand ends up being kind of problematic. And it's so tall that parallax can just make measuring things really difficult, because it's a foot tall. It's taller than a range 5. So you normally do the trick where you put your range tool out and then take a range 5 and drop it down to where it goes. The range 5's not long enough.
Right.
I think that's a really good point, though. I think there's specifically with shield throws, the ignoring of line of sight is something that I think it's overlooked and not really credited for the attribute that it is in certain attacks. And when you have terrain like the Sanctum Sanctorum, or I guess more realistically, like an apartment building or something like that, where you can really just throw it directly over it and you can't really be attacked back. It's pretty stellar, especially when you're bouncing it off them to somebody else too.
Yeah, Sam is classically a fair and balanced model. It's fine.
Everything is fine. Yeah, everything. Especially at NashCon. We talked about that last time. Yeah, especially at NashCon. Right?
Listen, Sam wins NashCons, man. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, it's stapled on his card. So you're 3-0 at this point, and you get paired for your last match of the day into Hellfire. Hellfire is one of those those interesting affiliations where, you generally have an idea of what you're going to see, but at the same time, some of these Hellfire players really just can throw you off by taking this mixed group of misfit toys, right? So, what's as you're going up against Isaac Kim, I believe, Isaac Kim into Hellfire. What is are you feeling good about the Hellfire match? They can do some pretty interesting shenanigans. How are you feeling going into that?
So going into this, I had only played against Hellfire 3 times, I think, and didn't really understand what was good about them. And I think now, from talking to Isaac and Curtis and some other people, Hellfire, like, I kind of understand, and especially Isaac's list was set up to be this way. Hellfire is kind of at their best when they're doing a Kingpin impression, where instead of, at least is my understanding of it, instead of counting double, they're getting that extra power and healing and just being like tough potatoes. But not a lot of potatoes are potatoey enough against Guardians. So it's like,
truer words have never been said, by the way.
Yeah.
Can we quote you on that? I really, that needs to be in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I still don't think Hellfire is particularly good, because I don't think, or at least not in this meta, because I think they're like slightly better Kingpin, and I don't think Kingpin's particularly good in this meta. But they're kind of trying to do the same plan. So I didn't know Isaac going into this, and I saw that he hadn't had a ton of games on Longshanks, which are always the people I'm most scared of. I'm worried about people I don't know by reputation, because, like, okay, this guy might be some like basement savant who's incredible. And I talked to him a lot later. He plays in the Ontario meta, which is just an incredibly stacked group of people. He's a great player, great guy. Really enjoyed our game. But yeah, his team didn't particularly worry me.
Okay. Well, so you, and you get the lovely Gamma set up too, which Hellfire really doesn't love.
They do like hammers, though.
They do like hammers, but that
we had.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, a big part of that fight over the first 2 rounds was out in the Gamma waste. Yeah. He had grabbed one with Bill and like sat Bill in cover, so still having a power for that. And I started attacking him with CGR and with Star-Lord, and he runs Luke Cage over there to sacrificing Heroes for Hire. And we played this whole game with like 2 of his models just out in the waste, which was really interesting. It was unlike a lot of other Gamma games I've played.
That is really interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they feel with some of their ability to heal at the end of one round, at the start of another, can be beneficial for them. But you pull it off, and you pull it off quite convincingly. And you make the cuts into day 2. You're 4-0. As you were, of course, I do have to ask, how many of full mugs of beer did you scoop in this time? Are you feeling good before, after? You've gone 4-0 at this point. What's the celebration like?
I'm not much of a drinker. I had 1 beer Friday night. They had this amazing sour called Throat Punch that just tasted like orange juice. It was great. I was planning on having more of that Saturday night, but we left to go get dinner and didn't end up going back to the brewery that night. So that one on Friday, and then kind of the same thing happened on Sunday. So that one on Friday ended up being the only beer I had all weekend.
Okay.
Throat Punch, by the way, just shout out to that name. That is a great name for a beer.
Great name.
Especially
great beer.
Especially for an MCP event.
I have to ask, did you get throat punched? Was there a bartender who just like, after you take your first gulp, you just lap?
No, their bartenders are wonderful people.
Gotcha.
No throat punching.
No throat punching. Oh, well.
You could get it as a chaser, but. Missed opportunity. So as you're kind of
coming off of the 4-0? Are you looking at the other undefeated? Are you kind of trying to come up with walk us through that, because we've talked about to some other players who just try to relax, come down off of the adrenaline and try to sleep. But it sounds like you were kind of scouting and trying to come up with a plan.
Yeah, so I mean, we go out to dinner that night. Went to Portillo's and just kind of my friends and I just kind of talked over a lot of the matchups. The undefeateds were going into day 2 were myself, Conan with his Inhumans, Graham with his Kingpin CS, and Curtis with his Hellfire. So of those lists, the only one I'm actually worried about is Conan's Inhumans. I'm very worried about Curtis, regardless of list, because like I said, players win games, lists don't win games. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm very scared of. And I don't really know Graham. I've seen his name on Discord come up, but I don't really know him as a player. But Guardian, I think Criminal Syndicate is one of Guardian's best matchups in the game. So I wasn't too worried about that one. So we spent some time talking them over, but I did try to not worry myself too much over it Saturday night, at least.
So as you're going to sleep, you're just like, come on, give me some sweet crime. I just want some crime.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, you don't. You get probably the scariest matchup, which I agree. Of your 3, of the top 4, that Inhumans with CGR list is probably the scariest in terms of lists. I'd like to hear maybe just a little bit more in depth of, so you pull demons and hammers. Mm-hmm. Tell me, walk me through from the moment you pull your crisis. What's the plan? What are you frustrated? Are you happy? Walk us through that a little bit.
I'm happy to have not gotten Researcher, because that is truly just a dice fest. I was hoping to pull Infinity Formula, because then I think I can outposition him better. But I knew this was going to be a very standoffish game. I have priority, but he, playing Inhumans, has options for multiple center ground. The first round played out where we both grab a side hammer and retreat, me with Bill, him with Quicksilver, and go kind of sit in the back. We move people up a little bit. He uses his Medusa to Royal Decree up CGR, which, despite having last activation, meant that I got to take some shots into his with my own CGR. We both rolled very well for power. We rolled 3 power every power roll, both of us.
Great.
Man. Yeah.
All right.
Juiced up.
So round 1, I put a first attack into him, which he bodyguard onto Black Bolt and did no damage, which I'm kind of thrilled about, because Black Bolt has been giving away power, so now can't take the second one. And the second one was where I spiked and immediately just put 4 damage onto his, especially with my winging it token. His return shot, because I'm in cover and he has no dice mods, only do 1 or 2 damage. So I'm feeling really good. No one takes the center demon. No one wants to be there. Demons is almost a dead. We're both scoring our back 1 and 2 hammers. So we're tying 3-3. I'm feeling really good going into round 2. I have priority. I've got enough power that I can teleport up into range and to get a good angle, because he had teleported back behind a car. I'm like, okay, I can pull his CGR away from Black Bolt, so away from the bodyguard, put a gainer into someone and spender his CGR, and should be able to finish him off. That's what I do, and I make a pretty bad decision here, which is I put the gainer into his CGR. So well, you know what? Even that spender sometimes whiffs. I want to make sure I get him. The gainer ends up being huge and leaves him on 1 health, but he plays fallback and goes back into bodyguard range.
Yes.
So I'm now up there. I still put the shot and make him spend the power and do like one or two, not a lot to Black Bolt. Black Bolt being able, like sitting in cover is pretty hard to damage.
Yeah.
And then I'm sitting up because I teleport to get up there. So he puts fire into me. I think his CGR goes, doesn't finish me off. Over the course of the round, we both daze each other's CGR. Actually, he might daze mine with his CGR, I think, with a spender. I daze his, like I draw out brace with Bill, and then Angela throws something into him to finish him off. Not a whole lot else happens that round. So not dazing his was kind of good for me because it meant I get with my CGR, because it meant I got to keep priority, and my CGR finishes his off top of 3. Between Medusa and Black Bolt, he finishes mine off bottom of 3. And then things get interesting from there. Over the course of those rounds, he had gotten my Angela, who's holding a hammer, down to like 1 health, and I think it was top of 4. I burned or it was either round 3. Maybe it was round 3. Round 3 or 4, I burned like 3 tactics cards, keeping her alive on that 1 health so that I can hold on to that victory point and she runs away. But it puts me in kind of a scary position later because there's a round where he finally gets priority where I've amassed a good lead, or okay lead, but Star-Lord and Angela are both still on 1 health holding hammers. And his Quicksilver goes, who had just dazed my Bill. His Quicksilver goes, or who had dazed him last round. Bill has flipped. His Quicksilver goes, dazes Star-Lord, dazes Angela, and is holding all 4 hammers, but is on only 1 health because Angela, after dazing Black Bolt, did an Angelic Assassin, got 4 damage into him, and then the rest. I had a Wing It token, but I was skulled out with several other dice, pushes 4 damage through, leaves him on 1 health, which ends up being a really big deal. Because at that point, Medusa had been KO'd on his side. So the only models left to activate after Quicksilver goes, does that, ends up standing with all 4 hammers on the middle demon. I've got Bill, and he's got flipped Black Bolt. And at this point, the score is close enough that like if anyone scores all 4 of those hammers, the game's over. Bill is not in range to walk and attack, but he is in range to double walk throw. So Bill walks, double walks, throws, and throws out away from the action so that and like spreads the hammers out so that Black Bolt can walk twice and score 2 of them if he wants to, but couldn't. There's no way to spread out 4 hammers that you can't get 2 of them. But I could control where that would be, and make sure that he doesn't get enough points to win. And he doesn't end up doing that. He instead has Black Bolt kill Bill, but I've got priority the next round, and the score is close enough that I've got 14, and I forget how many points he has, but it's like, well, I've got priority, and the hammers are laid out in such a way that there's some that like Angela can grab 2 of from one position with her medium base that Black Bolt couldn't. It's like, well, I need 2 points to win. Angela's going to walk over, grab 2 of those, and run away. And Quicksilver has enough power to speedster and make 2 spenders. And Angela was on a demon, so she's incinerated. So well, you get to roll 2 6 dice into my 3 with a winging it, and if you do 7 damage to me and get these hammers, like I'll just have Star-Lord left on the board. That'll be the game. So the game came down to could Quicksilver kill Angela, and he got closer than I was comfortable with. And I managed to score out there.
So speaking of the winging it tokens, and I'm sure it kind of varies as the game goes on, but like, do you have kind of a standard default as far as where you're putting those? I'm assuming characters like CGR, Star-Lord, Angela are pretty frequent recipients of those winging it tokens. But in the first round, actually very specifically of a standard game, are you kind of using those for offense, just hoping to be able to get an attack in? Or is it predominantly kind of round by round?
It's kind of round by round. Round 1, it's generally my guns. It's the people who have a chance of making attacks, or if it's a situation where I feel I'm going to want to leave someone like Bill or Groot in a position where they might get attacked, then they might get one for defense. But other than that, if I have priority, whoever's going first, unless they're going to be using their priority to just grab objectives and run away, whoever's going first is pretty much always getting a wing it token. And then it comes down to where I think. So if someone's going to make 2 attacks, they're more likely to get a wing it token. If someone's going to have to move and make 1 attack, but I need that 1 attack to really do something for me, they're getting a wing it token. Every once in a while, like if I've got someone who would be really great if they got to activate, but I don't think they'll get to activate, I might put a wing it token on them to like bait out attacking them so that I can have someone else like not get focused on and do something useful for me there. But it really does go round by round. It's very thematic. You do kind of have to wing it.
Yeah. I really like it from a psychological standpoint too, where if there's a character that's maybe at half health, they're a little ways down, but you know it's going to be a tall order for the opponent to put them down, putting that wing it token just might just make them not targeted at all for that round.
Yeah.
So I do really like the back and forth.
Save them.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. There's kind of an element of gambling with it, both with placing the wing it tokens and with playing attrition teams in general. It's a lot of risk identification and risk management and knowing like, okay, am I in a position where I can afford to play it safe? If not, how likely is it for me to do the thing that I kind of need to do to get back into it? And how bad is it going to be if I fail to do that? And if it's bad enough, do I need to find something else to do instead? There's a lot of sort of micro decisions that go into that rather than like, it's not always just roll dice, see what happens. Sometimes it is, but a lot of the time it's, can I afford to roll dice and see what happens? And if not, what should I be doing instead?
Well, and the lovely MCP special of leaving somebody on 1 always just feels good. Here's like just right in the heart. Yeah. Feels good.
Yep.
A throat punch, some might say.
Some would say like a throat punch. So you survive. You know, Angela survives the 2 spenders, and you beat your hardest matchup. Now, did you finish before Curtis and Graham, or did they finish before you? Were you able to see a little bit of that game, or how did that go?
I think we finished first. I don't actually remember who finished first. That it was a really stressful ending, so I kind of just went outside and I needed a breather. Our game went pretty fast, and then there was a lunch break, so I had a ton of time to stew on the next game, and I decided not to eat lunch because I wanted to. My nerves were so high that I wasn't hungry at all, but also I like to, like, with only 2 games, I'd rather be a little bit hungry and stay sharp and like on edge rather than like get full and sleepy.
That seems super fair. Yeah, seems super fair. I was wondering if you were able to watch the game and kind of.
I didn't watch any of it.
You know, root for root for crime, go crime. You know, but that doesn't happen. And you play another Hellfire team in Curtis's team, but Curtis's team's a little bit constructed a little bit different from I'm assuming from Isaac Kim's kind of general
a little bit.
Yeah.
Isaac based some of his team on Curtis's, I think, because they are from the same region. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure they talked about things like they both had the original Captain Marvel in there as a tech piece. So they were kind of similar, but with a few different like flexes.
Yeah. So you get this matchup, and you and I both know Curtis is a great opponent. You know, he's continuously doing very well across the tournaments that he goes to, and you pull Scrolls and Scoundrels, which I got to ask. I mean, it's got to be a little frustrating to see Scoundrels that kind of is hurting your game plan a little bit.
Not really.
Okay.
So Scoundrels for a long time was my white whale. It was the worst crisis I could play. The cover was giving me the fits, and I mean, it was a lot. I've been playing this list for a long time, so it's been a while, but the key to fixing that for me that I had found was Sam, because as long as I don't have priority, which I will never play Scoundrels with priority. If I win Prio and someone has Scoundrels in their list, I will pick Secures, because I don't want to ever have to play it at a threat less than 20.
Okay.
The threat is really important, because at 20 threat, I can play Star-Lord, Beta Ray Bill, Agent Venom, Sam, Hulk.
Okay.
Every one of those models, except for Star-Lord, can move people pretty reliably, either with a superpower throw or with like Sam damage on his attack. I've got 2 models that ignore cover. I've got 2 very tough models that kind of are happy to sit in the middle and do things and branch out to whichever side they need to. I've got 3 very mobile long range models that can move around the board and do what they need to. And I really think that this is one of the best Scoundrels teams in the game. I think against anything except Web Warriors, I feel amazing playing Scoundrels.
Okay.
But so the only reason I don't have it in my list is because at anything less than 20, it all falls apart.
Gotcha. Okay. Just all crumbling down. Gotcha.
Yeah. And I never want to be in a position to have to play it at another threat.
I know exactly. That's how I feel about Senators as a Brotherhood.
Yep.
It's like, I will never take Senators in my list. I will always play it on 19. I'll be double.
Sure. Yeah.
So you just kind of auto lock your team. I mean, you know what you're bringing. You know the game plan. Walk us through the game.
Sure. So I run the list that I said there. My tactics cards were Brace, Foreign Assignment, Eyes on the Prize, which I don't often take when I don't have priority, but since his list has multiple people who could, his roster, I think, has multiple people. No, it wasn't multiple people who could play it. It's that one side had a piece of size 3 terrain that someone, like right on it, where someone could pick it up from behind there and be pretty safe. So while I have Sam to grab my home one and retreat, I can be forced, like with deployment, I can be forced into a pretty suboptimal like side grab. But if you deploy Bill directly in the center, he can go to either side and get it with Eyes on the Prize, and he can't retreat from there, but he's far enough back to be like a little bit safe, and he's someone that I'm comfortable having up.
Yeah.
And I got, with where he deployed his Bill, he went and actually took and retreated on the side opposite, the other side from that terrain. So I got really lucky that not only that I was able to send my Bill up and be safe behind that terrain and not get pushed and stay on the Scoundrel as well. So I got kind of lucky there. I forget what my last 2 tactics cards are. It's not important. But his squad, and again, I wrote these down. He went 6 wide. So he played Emma, Okoye, Luke Cage, Lizard, Rhino, and Bill. So a lot of damage reduction, a couple bodyguards, trying to sort of steal attacks and keep them away from where they're really needed. Round 1 plays out pretty passively. We both grab our 2 scrolls, retreat to our points. He doesn't really bring anyone up to the center until last, because he's got last activation. So I just kind of put Hulk there, and he puts Luke there opposite me. So we tie 4-4 round 1. Fairly unexciting. Round 2, I open up with Agent Venom. And I've got Hulk in the middle, Beta Ray Bill on my left side, and Star-Lord, Agent Venom, and Sam all over on my right. And across from that little cluster, he's got Emma, Okoye, and his Bill, and that's it. Who's over there? So I go with Agent Venom. He's a good he's not holding anything, but I have Star-Lord over there. So if they daze Sam, I still have someone who can pick up a loose scroll. But he's got 2 powers, so he can web swing into place and start shooting, ignoring the cover, all that. And he starts putting shots into Emma, who is within bodyguard range of Okoye, but I want to make him spend the power. And Agent Venom likes shooting Okoye also because she doesn't get the reroll and far enough away that there's no martial artist. So I put a shot into Okoye. I do a couple damage. I think I put a second shot into her as well and daze her, and then play Foreign Assignment to throw a Star-Lord Spender into Emma, which he plays Heroes for Hire on. So I'm thrilled to bait that out early. I don't really care about dazing Emma that much at this point. I'm not particularly afraid of her now. It's fine, but obviously if you can kill a leader, you do. Oh, sorry. Before this, I think over the course of this game, we both made one decent sized mistake. His big mistake was round 1. He forgets to trigger his leadership.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, so realizing kind of we're in the power phase for round 2, and we're like, oh, you never popped that round 1. So that was pretty good. Luckily, he had no damage to heal, but the power is a big deal.
It does help.
Yeah. But so yeah, he Heroes for Hire is off my Foreign Assignment. I put, I don't know, a couple damage into Luke. It doesn't really matter. And then he throws me, and I get to use the advance from Foreign Assignment to position myself back on the point and in a good position. There's a little bit of back and forth. I think he might go with Emma and walk up and take some shots at me. Not that much super impactful. Oh, he goes with Rhino at one point, and his Rhino is opposite Bill, but doesn't have line of sight to Bill because of the truck there. He walks over, attacks Bill, robberies him, throws him off to the side, and it's like, okay, standard Rhino things.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, robbery is out of the way, and more importantly, it didn't throw any of my people into my other people. I'm always scared of a Rhino player saving robbery for when I get an objective on Hulk, and then getting to use Hulk as a missile. So I was pretty happy to see that not happen. Curtis didn't bring Brace because I think he was expecting a Guardians team with fewer throws and not a Guardians team where every model except Star-Lord can throw. So Bill goes after that, walks back onto the point, hits Rhino and throws a size 4 at him, and does like 4 or 5 damage to Rhino. Good chunk. Sets him up for Hulk to come in later and take him out and get me that objective back. I'm pretty happy with how that activation went. His Lizard, who is holding a Skrull and sitting on a back point, I think he might trigger the leadership at this point. But his Lizard goes and just throws that size 3 truck that was giving me cover, mostly just so that I can't throw it first. He throws it at a piece of size 2 terrain. He's just clearing out terrain to deny me weapons. And just kind of dirtles over the rest of that round. I keep enough people in my little cluster of 3 that he can't just go late and like double walk Bill over, throw someone off and score the point. But nothing super consequential happens over there. His Emma comes up at one point because I think sometime in round 3 she like she's in diamond form and does a spender into all of my people there and doesn't really accomplish much. He had a good move where but was like off to the side. So there was a position where my Sam could like throw a shield at her, and then if I get the ricochet, hit Luke and push them both off the point. And he used the diamond form transform to get her into a position where she backstopped, which was a really good play.
Yeah, that's interesting.
At some point, my Hulk goes after Rhino to try to finish him off. I think I like Gamma Leap, punch, leave him on 1, and he plays fallback, I think, to get away from me so I can't finish him off. So my Hulk walks over to his point with Lizard and just throws Lizard off, so I'm scoring the point. And this was where I made, I think, a pretty big mistake, because at this point, Lizard has no power because he had thrown that terrain. So I throw him into something. It's like, oh, I want to start shipping damage into him. well, that's a terrible idea because A, he's got the Hellfire leadership next round, and B, Lizard has healing factor. But what this meant was that with that one power from getting thrown into something, I should have just thrown it in his face, with that one power, with the power up from the next round and with the Hellfire leadership, that's enough power for Lizard to walk, throw over on the other side of the board. And that was almost pretty bad for me.
Okay.
I start off round 2 with Bill going and round 3 with Bill going and finishing off that last point of damage on Rhino, but unfortunately having to be far enough away to be off the secure, but I'm holding the extract and I get pushed by it anyway. So Bill's kind of off all the way on the edge of the board with a Skrull just doing his thing. And all the action really now is on the other side of the board. Everyone kind of collapsed to that side. Emma gets dazed this round. Agent Venom gets dazed this round. I forget the exact sequence. He takes a little bit of a points lead over this round or the next. And the middle of this game is a little bit of a blur. There is a lot of stress on both sides here. But this game was recorded, and Vince and Nate are doing commentary on it, and I think it's supposed to be up next week.
Nice.
So people can watch this and fill in all the blanks that I've got. I don't know if it was round 3 or round 4, but at some point, it must have been round 4, because at some point here, Lizard goes over to that side and throws someone around. Hulk walk, Gamma leaps onto the middle and like throws someone somewhere. So everyone except Bill and Rhino now are on this side of the board.
Okay.
Sam is over in like his core. Like Sam had gone onto his Scoundrel's point and got moved off or thrown off or something over on the side. At some point in the next round, I think he has priority the next round and goes with Emma and KO's Agent Venom before he activates, which I was feeling really good. I was feeling really good about my position in this game, and then Agent Venom goes down, and I'm feeling a little bit less good.
Okay.
Yeah, that's got a waffle.
Agent Venom I must have dazed round 2, because round 3 he like comes up, throws Emma's at 1 health at this point. He throws a beam at Lizard and does like no damage, but hits the trigger to daze Emma with the lashing tendrils and throw Lizard off the point. So either I scored that one or no one did. But what that meant was that, so despite Emma being in diamond form when she killed Agent Venom, so me being able to play tactics cards, I spent a ton of power the round before, so I was sitting on 2 power and not 3, so I couldn't recal because she had a big spike on her second attack. I was like, well, I'm 1 power shy of recal. I guess I'm dead. So Sam has a big activation where he's been like left on 1 health, and so has a ton of power. So has enough power to spender his Lizard twice. And his Lizard, between healing factor and the leadership, is back up to full, but he's holding a Skrull. So it's like, well, I really need him to go down, but I've got 2 6-die attacks. I have a winging it, and if I do damage, I get to throw him. I think I looked it up, and it's somewhere about a 40%er with all of that to daze him, but I did manage to get him, which was a really big deal, especially because his Lizard hadn't activated. So I was able to hold on to having last activation, which at this point is like, the score is really close. So at this point, having a last activation to try to control a secure is a really big deal.
Yeah.
His Rhino crosses the board to, like, he makes the correct decision to not mess with my Bill with Rhino. He's like, okay, I'm going to walk, or I think it was like slide, attack Hulk, teleport, or walk, slide, attack Hulk for the teleport to throw a piece of like size 1 terrain at my Sam, who has 1 health and manages to block it.
Just anything for that last heat.
It's that trash can. Yeah. You got to watch out for that trash can.
Yeah.
On your left.
Size 1 terrain throws are terrifying.
Not like this. Not like this.
Yeah. He draws out my brace with like Bill throwing a dumpster at Star-Lord when Star-Lord has 2 health left. I think he was holding something, and I think I should have held on to it because that meant later in the round he was able to or later the next round, he was able to double walk his bill and throw my 1 health Sam at my 2 health Star-Lord and daze them both and have them both drop scrolls. So I think, and my Hulk goes and punches his bill and does 3 damage or something and ties the point. So at the end of whatever round this is, the second to last round of the game, there's 2 or 3 scrolls on the ground and we tie at 14.
Wow.
So the game, it's anyone's game at this point. Before we start the last round, I walk over to his side of the table. We take a great picture together. My legs are literally shaking with how nervous I am. He told me later he's just as nervous as I was there. We're like, okay, before we end this, this is the most anyone's game it could be. Let's get a picture. So we do that. And we go into the last round. I have priority, I think. And no, he has priority and he goes with, I don't know. If he has priority, I don't remember what he did, but I'm pretty sure he did have priority. I don't remember what his activation is. I go with Star-Lord, and I deliberately left his Luke Cage just out in the middle of nowhere on 1 health. The previous round, mostly because I wanted to be able to take away an activation from him so that I could, because I think whoever has the last activation is going to have a huge advantage. So Star-Lord goes and does a hit and run into his bill just to try to get some damage on him, doesn't do anything, but then goes and stands to contest an objective or to contest a secure and dazes Luke. So it's okay, plan working out well there. He goes with Emma and goes into my Sam, and I'm feeling kind of okay. I'm because there was also a line where my first activation is just Sam double walks all the way to a secure on the other side of the board, which is empty at this point, basically. And I don't do that because I'm I'm still holding on to Recal. I have plenty of power, even though he can't raise shields against Emma. He should be okay. What I forgot at that point was that he also can't play Recal against Emma because she's in normal form. And she manages to take him off the board. So I'm sweating a little bit. His Rhino was his first activation. That's what it was. And his Rhino sat on my back right secure, kind of towards the middle, after hitting someone and not really doing much of anything. I don't know. But I was really happy with his positioning because my bill, the last round, I left on the inner side of my his left scoundrel and scoring that point. I was okay, with where his Rhino is, my bill has the range to double walk onto the middle scoundrel and throw his Rhino off. So I've got a good chance, if he doesn't put other people on that one, and if Star-Lord lives, then I can score that while also scoring another point. So it's really a fight for last activation. And then after Emma kills Sam, and I'm a little bit nervous, I'm looking at, because I think I've got Bill and Hulk left to activate, and he has Bill and Lizard. And this is where Hulk just puts the game on his back. I'm okay, Bill needs to wait till last, because if he activates now, he doesn't really accomplish anything. He goes and stands on the middle, and his Bill or his Lizard goes and throws him off, and takes the point for me. Hulk has to go. His Bill has 3 health. My Hulk is holding a scroll. My Hulk is holding a scroll. My Bill is holding a scroll. And I think the other 2 might be on the ground, or the other 1 is on the ground, I think. No, Rhino is holding it. Rhino picked up first activation. So they're all accounted for. Hulk needs to daze Bill. That is, then I can put the scroll in a position that Lizard kind of has to choose between getting that scroll and getting on a point. And the only point he'd be able to get on is Hulk's, and Hulk's healthy and Lizard's injured. And he hadn't really been attacking Hulk much over the course of the game. I think he threw that Rhino attack that he put into Hulk just for the teleport really was the only one. And he didn't do as much damage as I hoped he would, so I didn't have as much power. But Hulk had enough power still to gamma leap and hit Bill. I'm okay, I'll probably take, it's Bill, he has power, it'll probably take me 2, daze him in 1.
Nice.
Or this was okay, perfect. I have an action left. This is beautiful. I'm also in range to punch Lizard, so I'll throw a spender at him, see if I can get the stagger on him and like throw him away. And one shot's injured Lizard. And so at that point, just put the game on his back. He's out of models. Bill comes over and does the Rhino thing, and I score out to like 19.
Nice.
And breathed a sigh of relief. It was an incredible game, and I know in that description I'm not doing justice to how well Curtis played, mostly because I was so focused on mostly my own stuff that like it all turned into a blur. But he played such a tight game, and like really the positional skills that he showed were fantastic. But yeah, and I ended up taking it home.
Well,
that's awesome.
So tell me about that evening. Like you've won second wind. I assume you stayed that night, or did you leave on Sunday to head back home?
My flight was later that night, so helped clean up a little bit, and then left and got dinner or lunch dinner, and went to the airport a little earlier than I needed to, just to share an Uber with someone. It felt really good. I've been going to second wind for 4 second winds, 5 years because of COVID. I've been practicing and grinding this team a lot to try to get there. I had never won an event with more than 4 rounds before. And it was something that I was really trying to push myself to.
Nice.
So I was really happy with that win, and especially with it being there. It felt like a lot of hard work and preparation had paid off. As well as the luck that anyone needs to do well at any tournament. You can't win a tournament without luck, whether that's in dice at key moments or just getting the matchups you need or dodging them. Like, if anyone tells you that they win an event with 0 luck, they're lying.
Yeah, for real, especially with MCP. Yeah, there's dice are a character, terrain is a character, matchups and board side and priority, all very much characters in this game.
Absolutely.
So a couple quick questions. So with the new core box out, were there any potential additions that you were considering or maybe had flirted with, including in this roster? And now that core box, not at all.
There was for a brief moment, I considered putting in 3-threat Iron Man with Stark Armory.
Yeah.
But he would have to take Sam's spot in that roster, and that was never going to happen. Like I said, I've been tuning this roster for like more than a year, so everything very much has its place. There was a little bit of thought of including joint effort, but again, I didn't have a tactics card I was comfortable dropping for it. So no, the core box didn't really play any role in my roster consideration.
Now, how about in some of your Boogeyman matchups, with Cyclops being a leader that people are actually playing now? Were you concerned about kind of the new X-Men and a lot of them getting a buff, especially like with Colossus being significantly more of a threat, especially with that kind of reverse bodyguard? Or obviously you did end up kind of dodging all of those matchups, but was there any concern with that new update or the new core box and what you were going to have to be going up against?
I was still more afraid of Storm than I am of Cyclops, mostly because I think an X-Men player is only dropping Cyclops if we're on crises that are good for me. And the X-Men players that I was worried about were building lists that like had Cyclops in there as a flex, but like the only Cyclops I was even a little bit afraid of was a Cyclops with CGR, because again, kind of like Inhumans, they can keep it powered better than I can, but their attacks are lower quality. I had played one practice game against it before, and it's any CGR mirror. It's you're rolling dice, and I didn't want to do that, but that wasn't really something that I was up against. So I was still more worried about Storm, because a Storm game means that I'm playing on a pay to flip most likely, which I just don't love doing. Colossus, I played against a few Colossus. Like I played against a Colossus round 1 in X-Force. He's tough, but he's still kind of easy to daze. He's just impossible to KO.
Yeah.
So as long as I can be in a position where I can daze him at the right time and not need to worry about KOing him, that's fine. And also most of my displacements that I take a lot are throws. So I'm not like, yeah, I can't chains him. Hulk can't push him off the builder, but Hulk can still throw him. Bill can still throw him. I am Groot can still throw him. So I still have a lot of options for moving him around. And I've got a lot of long range attacks to not really have to worry about reverse bodyguard that much. So I wasn't too worried about Colossus.
So, and I feel like I know the answer to this next question, but any changes that you might consider going forward with this roster? Or I mean, it seems like you're pretty locked into it and you're very happy with it. But is there anything you're considering at all as far as a mix-up or a shake-up, or is this kind of the deal now?
Well, my mix-up is that I'm probably going to play some other stuff for a little bit just to like take a break. Yeah. But no, this roster, I think, for my play style and the way that I like to play the game and the way that I'm comfortable playing the game, I think this roster is the best it can be.
Nice.
Which isn't saying that it's the best Guardians roster in the world, but it is the best Guardians roster in the world for me to play.
No, I think that's a really good qualifier too. Like everyone's play style is different and they cleave towards different things. And I think that's very legitimately like the perfect way to put it.
Thanks. Yeah. So no, that roster's not going anywhere.
So outside of Guardians, then, is there anything that you're excited to kind of like test out in the meantime as you kind of take a little bit of a break from Guardians? Or
so 2 months ago-ish, I had taken a little Guardians break to mess around with Convocation a little bit. I played them at a local tournament and won it. And this past game night, I went back and just played more Convocation. I think they're a really fun team, and they make you feel really smart when you do cool stuff with them.
There's something about those clutch scalpels, right? That's just really, really, really fun.
Yeah, the leadership bumps. I've really been enjoying new Captain Marvel in there. Like, I didn't buy a new core box. There's not enough characters in there to warrant me buying it, but I bought a new Captain Marvel off someone because I think she's really fun in Convocation. The leadership adds to her mobility. She has the same mystic armor of Strange, where she gets the reverse pierce on energy and mystic, so she combos with Ironbound books really well. She can just like put a lot of displacement pressure out there, and just like with how mobile she is, like she's so much fun. I don't know if she's the best character I can play in that slot, but man, is she fun.
I hate seeing her at the other side of the table. I'm like, all right, do I focus her? Do I ignore her? She's just going to punch me in the face anyway. Like,
if you go after her and don't kill her, it's really bad.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I'm playing them. I want to play some Web Warriors. It's been a really, like, once upon a time, they were my main team, but that was a very long time ago. And after seeing them do really well this weekend or whatever weekend that was,
it's all merged together.
Yeah. I want to go back to it. Plus, Spider-Man is my favorite Marvel character, and I've been playing the PS5 Spider-Man 2, and it's incredible.
It's a great game.
So I'm going to play some of them. I was excited about playing some Inhumans, but a little less so now. I think I want to just play some non-straightforward attrition stuff for a little bit, but I did at least start painting Black Bolt a little bit, but
cool.
Spider-Man has taken away all my painting time, so.
So in between now and LVO, are there any other events that you're looking at going to, or is LVO kind of your next stop?
No, there's one in Houston called Cosmic Invasion. Not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after, that I think has got like 18 people.
Nice.
And I still haven't decided what I'm playing for that, whether it's going to be Convocation or Guardians. I've got a sort of like private league with some friends that I'm probably going to mess around with Web Warriors in just to play with. We're doing an affiliation battle in December, but
fun.
Cosmic Invasion is the next like decent sized one, and then after that, LVO.
We just did an affiliation battle this past weekend, and I was surprised at how fun it is. And seeing, especially after the card update and the new core box, seeing what people are playing, very kind of big mix-ups from my expectations going into it, what actually showed up, and it's a fun event. You get to see some different stuff and people playing things in different ways without the kind of consistent splashes and stuff like that. But it's a really good format. I like it a lot.
Yeah, Viper saw the table. That was
Viper
cool.
did see the table.
Yeah, that was cool. They were like, "What does that card do? What does that card do again?"
I'm going to play Web Warriors there, and original core box Peter is going to be in my roster because I don't have a spectacular Spider-Man. Is he going to see the table? Probably not, but Daredevil will.
Yeah.
He's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's super cool.
So that's exciting. I think Affiliation Battle is like head and shoulders the best alternate format for this game.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't have any argument against that, really. I really like What If, but like Affiliation Battle is really classic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would. So I got one last kind of question / favor to ask of you, Zach. Okay.
Sure
as we get close to wrapping up, if you could just do me a huge favor and not play me at LVO, that would be absolutely wonderful.
You're gonna have to bribe Charles and Tyson for that.
Look, don't give me good ideas. But no, Zach, I'm so proud of you, man.
Yeah, for real.
It's you should be proud of yourself. You know, there was a tough field at Second Wind.
Very tough.
I'm proud of you. You did a great job. I'm excited and not excited to get whooped by you at LVO. So it'll be.
Thank you. Hey, I mean, if nothing else, we should play a casual game.
That's true. Yeah, we do need to play.
Yeah.
So just kind of as we end up here, Zach, is there one character that's been announced for next year that you're like super hyped about, especially liking some Web Warriors? There's a little bit there, some Spider Foes. Is there anything that's coming out in 2024 that really has you super hyped?
Yeah, it's Gwenom and it's Sandman.
Yeah.
Those two models are great. The sculptors understand that Spider-Man is the best Marvel property and continue to give Spider Foes all of the best sculpts in the game. Like, all of those sculpts are incredible, but the Sandman sculpt is just on another level.
It really is.
And I can't wait to paint all those models. I really hope they do some stuff to shake up Spider Foes because I am not a big fan of new Doc Ock. But I'm really excited for Gwenom. I think that is a really cool part of her comic storyline, and the model looks really cool.
Completely agree.
I could take or leave Ben Reilly, but I'm always happy to get a new character for an affiliation I'm planning on playing. Mm-hmm. So
I will say, sorry, Tim.
More emo Spider-Man is like. It's great shtick for me personally. But just anytime I can be like, oh, I guess I'll taser web you now. Like, adore it.
My well-defined muscles. Yeah, do the Andy Samberg from Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, after playing Spider-Man 5 and just how baller Kraven is in that game, and I'm like, man, I think I just want to play Spider-Foes all the time now, and just
so cool.
The game is awesome, and the models for foes are really cool. So they're definitely piquing my interest.
Yeah. What about you guys? What upcoming stuff is exciting for you guys?
Shadow King. Like I love that. I love him so much. I loved the Legion show. I don't like a lot, actually. I didn't really enjoy a ton of the like Marvel television shows, but I really liked Legion. And Shadow King is like huge in my heart. Yes. And maybe I haven't gotten off season 1, so maybe I'm still like holding it higher than it should be.
You should stop. Season 2 is way up its own butt, and I never watched season 3. I skipped season 3 because season 2 is bad. Season 1 is amazing.
All right, maybe I'll just
Jermaine Clement in there. Yeah.
Yes. I'm a big Flight of the Conchords fan, and What We Do in the Shadows. I love Jermaine Clement, so I thought he knocked it out of the park in that. But hell yeah. Well, so I assume the finals of that Second Wind will probably be on Vincent Kirchhoff's channel. So that's Vincent Kirchhoff on YouTube if you do want to check out that matchup. But Zach,
sometime next week from when this is recording, at least.
Yeah. But yeah, that's at Vincent Kirchhoff on YouTube. I almost said Facebook. He's also probably Vincent Kirchhoff on Facebook. But
I would guess. I would guess.
But
this is a really cool alias.
Thank you so much for coming on. Once again, congratulations. That is super dope. I was looking at the Longshanks and I was like, yo, Zach won. That's rad as hell. So
thank you.
But
thanks for having me.
And Ben, thank you so much for coming on too. I really appreciate you. But
that's always a joy to be here.
That's Second Wind next year. Make sure to get pumped for it now. Second Wind 6.
Be there.
Next year in Chicago. Listen, it's going to be the place to be. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. And listen, get ready for Emo Spider-Man. It's going to be great. Bye.
Bye.